We talked about accounting systems being part of the value chain in an organization, so it's important to get a feel for what we mean by the value chain itself. And the value chain, well, if you think about a business, a business is basically a series of business processes that are performed. Each of these business processes is a set of activities that are related to each other that add some kind of value to the company or perform some kind of useful function for the company. And by it being useful, therefore, it does add some value. If you think about the way these processes are strung together, there's a chain of processes that each add some kind of value that we call the value chain. So the value chain has a number of activities associated with it, and if you think of the value chain of the primary business activities, well, you've got inbound logistics. So inbound logistics is basically just the activities that take place regarding receiving goods, receiving raw materials, receiving trade goods, receiving other materials for further assembly. Basically just receiving and then storing it. So inbound logistics, receiving and storing goods and materials that will eventually be used to provide value to the firm in some way when they're put together or assembled. So operations would be the next set of activities that transform those goods, those inputs, if you will, into higher value finished goods or services. So you can think of the manufacturing process in a large company taking all of the parts, say at Toyota, that come in and putting those together and assembling, finishing, completing an automobile. So outbound logistics are basically the activities where once the finished good is created, it is stored or warehoused somewhere and then sold eventually and distributed to the actual customer. So storing and then distributing it to the customer when the customer has finally bought the product. Marketing, sales activities are part of the value chain by helping to identify potential customers, help to clarify customers' needs, and maybe identify the needs to the customers themselves to allow them to be aware of firm's products and to purchase the firm's products. And then finally, service activities, post-sale activities, customer relations, ongoing customer relationships, service of the sold goods, and so forth, so that the customer becomes a potential repeat customer. So these are the primary activities, and if you can think of the information system itself has a value chain that is related to here, and you can think about the inbound logistics being the data coming into the system, operations being the processing of the data, outbound logistics, the actual reporting and output of the data itself and delivering it to the end users, and then of course marketing and service would be analogous to making different user groups aware of the information that's available. All right, value chains also have activities that support the overall value chain. So if you go back to our manufacturing value chain, well, inbound logistics are supported by the procurement activities. Procurement being purchasing, accounts payable, cash disbursements, warehousing, receiving, and so forth. So for the procurement activities, they support inbound logistics. And then to a certain extent, they support operations by making goods available for the operations portion of the business. Information technology supports all the activities as well by providing the information systems that support each of these primary activities. Human resource management is important in order to deploy the appropriate resources, the appropriate personnel in support of each of these activities, so that we have receiving clerks at the receiving dock, so that we have someone managing the warehouse itself, performing inventory control to identify when goods need to be replenished, and so on down the line. And then finally, we've got just the overall organizational infrastructure that is able to support the business itself. So the organizational infrastructure includes all the management activities that provide funding for the organization and enable factories to be built, machinery to be acquired, and put in place to produce the finished goods. So all of these support activities become what we call that value chain. And the value chain is basically that series of activities that add some value to the company, and hopefully is the driver for making the firm or the company successful. Again, companies, publicly traded companies, are typically measured for success by market value, or stock price, or something like that. But certainly there are a number of other types of companies, not-for-profits, that may have different measures of value and success.